Thanks, Jerry, for that introduction, and thanks to Vertical Events for giving us the opportunity to update people on where Thundelarra is at. Most of you who are aware of Thundelarra will be fully aware that Red Boar has indeed been our flagship target for the last year or so, and the drilling that was completed a couple of months ago proved the geological model we were after, but did not intersect the massive sulfides at the time that we were all looking for and hoping for as to be the next stage for that. I will address Red Boar and where it's at and what we're going to do with that in the future later in the program, but we always had as a backup some other targets and other models and projects that we wanted to look at just in case this sort of thing happened, that we had a technical success at Red Boar, but that it wasn't something that fired the market up. So what I'm going to address first is what our current major activity is, which is the gold at Garden Gully. What you have here at the moment is the very basic investment rationale. This presentation is available on our website, and there are also a few hard copies left at our table outside. So I'm not going to read all this out to you. You're able to sort of see it all for yourself. I am now going to be challenged to some degree through this by having to deal with two screens at the same time. Fortunately, I haven't got two of these things to really mess it up with, but never mind. Top shareholders, Ragged Range Mining. These guys, that's Phil Crabb, our chairman. The Chin brothers, Chin nominees and Siat Yun Chin are high net worth individuals out of Singaporean Chinese. But basically what it means is that the board, directors, friendly parties to the company probably control about 35% of the company. And as you can see here, the board management hold about 16-17%. So we have real skin in the game, which I believe is an absolute paramount importance for any exploration company, so that you know that the minds are focused of all the people who are involved in it. They are as invested in the success of the company as are all our individual shareholders. Recent share price performance, fairly straightforward. The daily turnover is about 500,000 shares at the moment, which is great. It's a little bit of liquidity coming back into what had been a fairly quiet market before that. And although we've been fairly flat performance in the share price over the last year or so, we've underperformed the lithium and the gold run that has come out of a lot of the other companies, which is the blue small resources index on that graph. But we are in gold, as we said. We acquired the assets late last year in December, and we are now currently exploring them. And while we were drilling Red Boar in July or so, we were also actively exploring the Garden Gully assets. And I'll be perfectly honest, at the time I thought the first pass exploration program was going to be predominantly a geochemical survey to try and find out if we could establish exactly where the follow-up targets were going to be. That wasn't the case. It became a really, really good outcome, so I was really happy with that, and I'll explain that in a second. Beforehand, though, Neil Biddle's talking next, Pilbara, and their lithium market. He's got some really interesting things to say about where the lithium market is overall and what the future lies. And although we haven't ever really been pushing it, down at Paynes Find, which is one of the gold tenements down here, there is also a pegmatite field, which is part of the Mount Eden pegmatite field. So given what Neil's about to what you'll hear now, what I heard up in Sydney the other day, we're certainly going to be having a look at that in a bit more interest, a bit more detail to ascertain exactly what the pegmatites on that ground hold, if they're lithium bearing or not. And so we'll want to be looking at that in more detail. Paynes Find, just quickly, we've done soil samples on that. It's taken us 6 attempts, because every time we've gone anywhere near that, it's pissed down rain and we haven't been able to do the soil sampling. So finally, after about 8-9 weeks of trying to get up there to do it, we recently completed our soil sampling survey there. Main portfolio, main interest at the moment is Garden Gully, which is just northwest of Meekatharra. Deliberately chosen as a location where they have 2 plants nearby. You've got Andy Well, which is Doré, just to the north, and to the south, you've got the Bluebird plant, which is a 3 million tonne per annum Metals X plant. The aim for us, if we do discover anything of size and substance, is to be able to monetize quickly, to deliver results and value for shareholders. And the best way to do that is not to try and reinvent the wheel and build yet another plant in the goldfields. There are already existing hungry plants there. So if you can find a resource, the quickest way to get money into shareholders' hands is by working out a toll treatment or selling that particular asset into the company there. So you get an upside much more quickly, and then you can move on and repeat the process with others. Garden Gully, as I say, when we were doing the drilling, in the Garden Gully, you see that little leg, that little limb at the bottom there, which comes just down there. That's running sub-parallel with a shear zone that Dore have explored going up from Andy Wells, so they've been looking all the way down there. They've found nothing that they've announced of major substance along that shear zone, but it's interesting that all the historical workings and the historical scratches and scrapings that have produced gold have actually been west of that shear zone in the ground that we hold. When we did our program, as I say, back in June, July, we were very surprised but very gratified to find this sort of thing. Visible gold in drill chips at 11 metres, intersecting 7 metres at 24.5 grams per tonne gold. We went back in and resampled that, took a totally new sample and tested that again and got 7 metres at 17.7. That was very, very gratifying as it reconfirms that that particular interval, that 7 metres, is holding a considerable amount of gold. Drilling deeper into the primary zone below that, we're hitting 12 metres at 4 grams. That's with arsenopyrite. So the gold arsenic association, as is often the case in the gold fields, Archean greenstone belts, shear-hosted gold arsenic associations. And what we found as we've explored here is we've got about 9 different individual targets have been outlined by this first pass program. About 26 holes, and probably 20 of them didn't actually reach the target depth because it was a rig that was really designed for scout drilling, but they still found enough to be able to give us the excitement and the enthusiasm we have for where we're going next. I should also point out quickly, just that interval there is, that's the one at the bottom there, that's in the primary zone as well. That's, again, arsenic and gold association and 6 metres at 3 grams at 103. That came from Transylvania just here, which is that one. And so that was, you've got gold intersections in the surface and the primary zone there, high-grade gold intersections at Lydia, and then also down at Transylvania you've got the others. Down in the south, at that one there in the northwest, Granite Well, we hit 37 metres at 0.3 grams. Not huge in its own right, but remember this is first pass exploration on a project. I never expected that we'd see anything like this amount of enthusiasm and quality of results in an early stage project. So it is really, really pleasing for us to have had this. And in the past, we have had criticism that we haven't been able to follow up drilling and get the new program in there quickly. We have an Orlando rig that was up there late last week, started drilling, it can drill to 400 metres depth. So we're looking at following up all these targets, all these deep targets at Lydia, Transylvania, Mbuti, northeast Transylvania. The one at Battery, there's a couple of parallel zones. Each of these are going 800 metres, 700 metres long in some of them in shear zones where they're in mafics, but there's also zones like Booty, which Battery, which have the gold is at the intersection of black shales and felsic volcaniclastics. For anybody geological, that becomes quite interesting in its own right. So we got a new rig, 400 metres, that was all ready to go and was drilling away merrily, and then the engine blew up on Tuesday. So it's having to be taken back down to Cal to be refurbished, but we're hoping that it'll be about 7 or 8 days before we can get the rig back up there. But the program's still one of about 3,000 metres, 3,500 metres maybe, and if we get an average of 100 to 300 metres per hole, and it'll depend on the geology we find in each hole, but what we'll have is the ability to test all these targets, much greater depth. Historically, they've only been drilled to about 100, 120 metres, because the water table historically, when the old workings were done there, would stop at about 100 foot, 30 metres or so. So this stuff has not been looked at depth. What we're finding is really highly encouraging and exciting zones of gold in the first pass mineralisation that we've already encountered, and we will continue to explore the 7 or 8 targets we've got here. Also worth mentioning is this about 4 kilometres up in the northwest prospect, very imaginatively named to date, but that's copper and zinc anomalism in a black shale sequence, which has chargeability and conductors in there that we need to follow up drilling with as well. That could be a VMS target. We're not sure yet. It's still early days and we don't have a full handle on all the geology of that thing yet. But this project area has turned into be a really, really exciting area for us to follow up on. And as I say, by the end of October, we should have the full program finished with results in late November. We're also just announced the other day that we'd started drilling at Allamber in the Northern Territory, and I'll explain that in a second. But just quickly, as we go through, just to let people who are interested about red bore, we haven't forgotten red bore, and it is not dead in any way or form. Conductor 5 is just 200 metres to the northwest of the tenement. We were drilling deep holes underneath both Impaler and Gossan there. So Impaler there and Gossan there, and Conductor 5 is just the northwest. What we found was we drilled a 900-metre hole that was designed to test this gravity anomaly that we'd identified as being a folded pattern of, we thought might well be a folded pattern of the dolerites and the volcanic lastics. And it was proven to be the case. The gravity anomaly was explained by, in the keel of that fold, there being about 400 metres of dolerites. This is from 400 to 700, or 500 to 900 metres. Interestingly, as we went through the bottom of it, we're back in volcanic lastics through the bottom of that, which means that we wanted to explain what the high-grade mineralisation up there that we'd found before, the 7 metres at 28%, where it had come from. It's remobilised, so we thought it might well be existing in the keel of this folded package. But it appears that what we've managed to drill has proven the geological model, which is great, but although the market often views that as saying, all right, you've drilled it and you haven't hit it, therefore it's dead, that's not the case. What it hasn't explained is where that primary mineralisation has come from. So if each of you looks at your table down here, it's like that table might be the gravity anomaly at 600 metres depth, and one of the little, the tray in the middle might be the VMS, but if you're sitting there from the roof drilling a hole down there, you hit the table, prove the table's there, but the fact that you've hit the table without hitting the tray doesn't mean the tray isn't there, just means you haven't hit it. So this thing is still alive. We still have more things to do here, and over the next few months, particularly in the quiet time during the really hot season when the field season breaks down for a while over January and February, it'll give us a chance to get all the data that we've collected from the core, from the multi-element geochemical analyses of the various intervals in the core, from the geology, the petrography, and the SEM work we do, and the downhole EM, and work out exactly what we think might be happening at both Red Boar, or at Gossan and at Impaler, because the Impaler target still looks really, really interesting. I think bear in mind, if you look at historical announcements from Sandfire back in the Copper conference in 2014, and their Rising Stars conference on their website in 2015, they did a load of seismic, 3D seismic. Initially it would run along here, but it actually runs about 12K north-south. The tie line, the east-west tie line, ran through our tenement with our approval. That was fine. We wanted to understand from their point of view what was going on. So they have a picture in some way or form of what may or may not be underneath Red Boar. Nothing's been said, and I don't expect anything to be said, but it'd be really interesting to see what happens over the next 6 to 8 months. Allamber, as I mentioned, up in the Northern Territory. This tenement here it's a pastoral lease that is owned by a gentleman by the name of Kevin Gleeson, who passed away about 8 weeks ago, but he bought all the livestock from Warren Anderson's Tipperary Wildlife Sanctuary back in 2009, and these were all exotic things like kudu, banteng, oryx, and he stocked them all into here, into this pastoral lease, and converted into basically a trophy hunting lodge, which meant that during the field season, he didn't want us anywhere near the place. So our field season is the same as his hunting season, which is basically winter when the weather was predictable. We can only really get on the tenement round about now as the wet begins to build up, and he's not able to get hunters on board, or hasn't been in the past. So we've just started drilling again at the tenement here, and the reason we're drilling is to explore the follow-up of these sort of intervals that we've hit in last year's work and the year before. This is copper intervals that need to be followed up. I mean, these are fantastic results in their own right. When you're getting 5 odd metres at 4%, you need to follow that up and understand what's happening. And we've got targets, so we've got a multi-purpose rig up there drilling diamond tails on RC pre-collars. So basically, we have various other assets up at Sophie Downs. You can look at these at your leisure, and there's on the website or on the presentation. Keller Creek is nickel exposure, which costs us nothing because it's free carried. And then the disclaimers and everything else are there. So basically what I want you to recognise is that Red Boar, if you're in for Red Boar, it's not dead, it's just resting at the moment. The main target we have at the moment is moving on to the gold and the Garden Gully. And if people have sold out of Thundelarra on the back of the Red Boar results, then basically they've got to be consciously acknowledging that they're saying that the company has no chance of upside from results that include 7 metres at 25 grams and 12 metres at 4 grams and 7 metres at 3 grams with a totally new project area. If you're happy with that, then fine. I'd totally be happy with people selling. but don't please ever say that we haven't given you the opportunity to have an uplift from another type of exploration success as well. Thank you all very much.